This is Cape Talk.
Cape Talk.
Well, speaking of wherever the road leads, today we want to talk about the kitchens the road is leading us to, or the street food vendors, the wine farms, and more. It's all about traveling with your taste buds in Wonder the World today. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. Have you ever planned an entire holiday around a dining experience? Did you fly to the other side of the world to go and eat in a restaurant that somebody had raved about? Or plan an entire trip about wanting to taste a particular kind of street food that has always seized your fancy? Where did you go? What did you eat? Did it live up to expectations, and would you do it again? We're talking foodie travel with a bit of a difference today because according to the World Food Travel Association, around a third of global tourist spending is now going towards food and drink experiences, and travelers are increasingly citing cuisine and wine regions or food traditions as a primary driver in their choice of travel destination. You know, I think back to some of the travel I've done, and my memories are mostly firstly relating to food. If I think of Rome, I remember the watermelon gelato on a hot day at the Spanish Steps. If I think of my recent travels to Brittany, it's the apple caramels and the apple liqueur that I brought home with me that are going to be the thing that always stays in my head alongside the experience of visiting San Malo. Bali last year, it was about the street food, about the crunchy lumpia, about the cocktails on the beachfront. So much of my travel memory is driven by the memory of food. And I suspect my guest joining us today might feel the same way. She's going to talk to us about some of the interesting foodie destinations to add to your radar. And I'd love to hear from you about the ones you've already visited. Keep those WhatsApps coming to 072 567 1567. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show travel correspondent and writer Gabbi Brondani. Great to have you with us, Gabbi, and I hope it's a delicious good afternoon to you.
Oh, definitely. Good afternoon.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the kind of the big picture here. We're talking here about culinary-driven travel, not just sort of food being part of the experience. We go to Paris because we know we'll get nice croissants on the side of it, the museums we're visiting. We're talking about food being the main event. Are you seeing that becoming increasingly a sort of a primary driver of people's travel decisions?
Yeah, so travelers these days, we're looking for a lot more authentic experiences, and food is one of the quickest ways to really connect with a destination's culture. Food, it tells a story of a place. It talks about the history, the traditions, the climate, the people, the culture, all of those beautiful things that make a place as unique as it is. And I think why this trend resonates with South Africans were naturally a very social group of people, particularly around food. So whether it's a braai, whether it's a Sunday lunch, or gathering around a table with friends and families, food has always been central to how we celebrate and how we connect. And I think that's why culinary travel feels so natural for travelers from South Africa. It's also about slowing down. It's about sharing meals and just creating memories rather than rushing from one tourist attraction to the next. We also have a growing appreciation for local produce, your wine, your artisanal foods. So destinations that celebrate regional cuisine are becoming increasingly appealing to travelers from South Africa.
It's my kind of travel you're describing. I think I have told the story before, but one of my favorite travel memories is of being in Florence. And actually, I didn't enjoy my experience of the city that much because it was so devilishly hot when we were there. I could hardly, at 7 months pregnant, pick myself up off a chair to go anywhere. But I will never forget the experience of spending about 6 hours in a little restaurant, sharing a salad, and then half an hour later ordering a pizza, and then an hour later ordering a pasta. And people came and went, and for 1 hour we shared our table with a postman from England, and the next hour it was an Italian who lived around the corner. It was the most gezellige afternoon we've ever had in the middle of Italy. You're so right in saying there is something about the way we like to eat together as South Africans that leans into that space. And yet some people don't seem to get this. Gabbi, I think one of the most depressing things for me anywhere in the world is if you arrive in a beautiful destination. Like I remember arriving at Bologna, the food capital of Italy, and seeing a queue out the door at McDonald's and thinking to myself, do you know what you're missing? And I know it feels familiar and it's maybe inaccessible and a place to get a cup of coffee and charge your phone and get free Wi-Fi. But why would you want to travel to the other side of the world and then eat in the same place you would eat in at home? I've never quite been able to mesh those two. Do you think that's starting to change, that more people are starting to get a little bit more adventurous in terms of what they're prepared to try?
Absolutely, because I think a lot more people, as we've mentioned, are looking for more authentic experiences. And if we are traveling, because being in South Africa, when we do travel, particularly long haul, it does take us a little bit of time to get to those destinations across the world. So once we're there, a lot more people are looking to try new things and sort of venture out of their comfort zones, even from a foodie perspective. I completely get, I'm a mom to a toddler, so I completely get if there's like an emergency nugget stop at McDonald's.
Absolutely. I think that gets a free pass. Yeah. Okay.
But I think definitely a lot more people are sort of venturing into the foodie space. And I think it's not even necessarily a case of you have to be a foodie to enjoy culinary experiences and culinary travel. There's so much more to culinary travel, which appeals to all different ages and types of travelers. So it's not even for luxury travelers or retired couples or, again, foodies. Families can enjoy cooking classes together. There are some stunning cooking classes in Italy, in France, in Portugal that you can do together, in South America. Couples, a lot of them enjoy wine tasting and romantic dining experiences. And solo travelers often find food tours and shared meals are also a wonderful way to meet new people. So yes, the culinary travel trend is definitely appealing to quite a broad portion of travelers.
It's such an important point you just made about the solo traveler. Gabbi, I did a trip on my own in April, and for part of it, I joined an organized bus tour for 2 days. And up until the point that we ate together, everybody remained kind of in their own little bubble on the bus. Where we're going next, we kind of introduced ourselves, but the ice was broken when we arrived at the first destination and tasted food together and started talking about what we were eating and who liked what. It was the ultimate icebreaker. It's such a great way to connect with people that you don't know. I absolutely take your point. Mandy writing on the WhatsApp line about how much she loved the food in Thailand, and she says, I would go back there just to taste the food, but particularly the street food in the case of Thailand. I'd love to hear from other listeners who feel that way, that the food alone is worth adding a destination to your travel bucket list or makes you want to go back again, and tell us what it was particularly that you enjoyed eating. Gabbi, I mean, it wouldn't be a travel conversation without sharing some travel suggestions of destinations that hit the mark for this particular conversation. Are there any that you'd pick out?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of South Africans, we've already visited your major cities like your Paris, your Romes, your Barcelonas, which are beautiful. One of the interesting ways where a lot more people are starting to explore travel-wise and from a culinary focus perspective are river cruises, which is a completely different perspective, taking you into much smaller towns and villages than most tourists actually get to experience. France, for example, of course, gastronomy is a way of life. So France has long captured the world's culinary imagination, and experiencing the beautiful rivers throughout France with a river cruise. You've got, for example, your Uniworld's 8-day cruise through Burgundy and Provence. It's very, very clear why. So you can visit Lyon and savor all the different beautiful wines from the region, the incredible gastronomy from the region. You can stop off in Avignon. They've got their famous covered markets, which overflows with locally grown fruits and vegetables. You've got your seafoods, your cured meats, your cheeses and artisanal breads, which of course France is very, very famous for. You've also got your Portugal, which is very, very popular. So this is the art of unhurried eating. So the Douro Valley in Portugal, it's one of the oldest cultivated landscapes in the world. So basically you'll have a front row seat on a river cruise to this incredible landscape. Porto, which is Portugal's second city after Lisbon and home to the nation's famous port wine, it's really such a treasure trove of discoveries for the foodie traveler.
I've got a friend who went all the way to Portugal just to go and eat the pastéis de nata in Belém at that one particular place that is famous for them. I can't remember the name of the bakery right now, but literally planned an entire trip around that. And when I asked her after she got back, was it worth it? She said it absolutely lived up to expectations, every single bite. We are in conversation with travel writer Gabbi Brondani talking about food-driven travel, and not just, going to a place and then, oh yes, we ate nice food while we were there, but literally traveling with food and gastronomical experiences as your primary focus, whether you are going to learn how to make pasta in Italy or to go and taste as many cheeses as you can in Holland, wherever it is, whatever it is you might be trying. Gabbi, I so take your point about the river cruising experience, having now done 3 self-drive river trips in France and Belgium with Le Boat. The best part of that experience, besides the sort of slow pace and ability to just slow down and breathe, is hopping on a bicycle, cycling into the nearest tiny town, finding its market, buying, cheese that was made 500 meters down the road from a farmer who knows the name of every cow and sheep and goat on his farm. It's extraordinary. It's a beautiful way to experience the countryside, and to really, as you say, dive deep into the authentic side of a country, not just the very fancy, expensive, main tourist sites in the big cities. I totally take your point on that one. Italy, we've mentioned several times now, and it's been certainly the place where I've had some of my best foodie travel experiences. Everybody seems to think, okay, Naples, you go and try the original pizza, gelato in Rome, Bologna is famous as a food capital, but I believe northern Italy is also, when you're talking about the river cruises in particular, one that should be kept on the list. Gabbi?
Absolutely. So Italy, it really is a celebration of culinary pleasure. So you've got a lot of variety in Italy. So you've got your rustic rural meals and farmers markets, all the way to your Michelin-starred city restaurant experiences. So Italy, it honestly is an absolute masterclass in the joy of food. So taking a river cruise through the waterways of northern Italy, it really puts you in the middle of Italy's most underrated food region. So I think your cured meats, your risottos, your stuffed pastas like your tortellinis, and all of those incredible foodie experiences. And as you go further south, you'll discover the secrets of course, Tuscan cuisine, the wine. You can enjoy incredible cooking classes. You can explore local towns and villages and sample some of the region's best in specialities. And I think I'm glad you mentioned that you had actually done an organized tour previously. One of my most memorable experiences on a Kontiki that I did, we were actually in Barcelona and we went and did a paella cooking course, which was something incredible. Also on my own, and just learning over a foodie experience also just bonded the group, which is very cool. And I know a lot of your organized tours, like your Trafalgar tours, your Inside Vacations, all of those kind of tours, a lot of them organize and have the option for you to actually go and learn to cook with families from those regions. It's very small, intimate experiences, and it's almost something you probably wouldn't necessarily experience if you had to plan it on your own. So these are experiences, a lot of the credible travel brands have that reputation within the regions that they operate, where they have the opportunities, they're on the ground, they know who all the locals are, where they can offer that really personal way to experience a destination, which is something so special.
I found several of those opportunities on TripAdvisor, Gabbi, for example. I'm thinking back to 2019 when I went to Amsterdam, and I wanted to do just a day sort of trip out of the city into the local countryside. And one of the things I found was a bicycle tour that took you into the countryside, past some windmills, etc., but also included an afternoon with a local cheesemaker who literally took us through the process of making Dutch Gouda. It was a phenomenal afternoon. 8 more cheese than I should have. Looked and sort of thought, how am I going to get some of this home? And you've got to be very careful about what you choose to take home and how it's packaged and what gets declared at customs. I'm not encouraging anybody to smuggle produce back, but it is an amazing way to sort of get a real sense of the culture of the country you're visiting. Trevor writes to say, just my screen just refreshed. There it is. Trevor says, having traveled far and wide and experienced food in Mexico, all over Europe, Thailand and the USA, the best foodie countries for me are firstly Japan, secondly Italy, and third Thailand. Of course, France is fantastic too. And Trevor, you straight up on the top of my bucket list with Japan. It's a country I've never been to that's very much on my list. And I've heard the same thing from everybody I know who has been there, that the appreciation, not just for how different the food is, And, it's a very different eating experience, and the culture of dining and the way restaurants operate, etc., is very different. But just the sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? The sense of the communal dining experience, Gabbi, of eating together being more than just putting fuel into your body. The sense of ritual around it is something people have said to me is so special in Japan.
Absolutely.
Okay, so lucky you, Trevor. Japan, Italy and Thailand on his list. Fatima writes to say, we had the most beautiful chicken and waffles served at the Gladys Knight restaurant in Atlanta, and a tasty Thanksgiving pumpkin pie for dessert in Illinois. And you're straight away taking me back to the Thanksgiving I spent in the States as a child, Fatima, and pumpkin pie, and being presented with this vegetable that I'd always hated at home in South Africa, suddenly cooked as a dessert, and giving the side eye to the person telling me, come on, try it. You'll love it. And boy, were they right. I've never had my pumpkin with marshmallows on it again ever since, though, I've got to say. Please do keep the messages coming if you have had a foodie tourism experience you want to share, whether it was the sole reason for your travel or the primary driver of your travel, or a happy side effect that you stumbled upon while visiting something else. What did you eat and where? What would you recommend if somebody is wanting to plan a trip around eating delicious things and trying new dishes? Where should they go and what should they order? I'm happy to keep this going into the second hour of the show. Gabbi, before we're out of time, we've mentioned joining organized trips can be a good way to find an authentic sort of homestay, really traditional way of learning to cook a dish. Any other recommendations for listeners who want to perhaps break out of their comfort zones a little bit and say, I do want to try something new, but I don't really know where to start, and it's expensive to be paying for food when you're doing the currency exchange rates. You're a bit nervous to get it wrong. Any broad advice?
So I think maybe one of the more simple ways, you don't even have to go big for that matter. If you are in an overseas country, I know Europe, it's very popular. A lot of even just the coffee shops, like start small, have big, long communal tables. Don't sit at a table on your own. Maybe just sit at one of the chairs. People will start joining you. Just start a conversation. It's very simple. You don't have to do anything big or grand from that perspective. Also, when you are looking to do or any kinds of cooking experiences or things like that, just be aware of where you are booking with, who you are booking with, because I think on the internet it's easy to get caught off guard by maybe not reputable companies. Yeah. So just be aware. Booking.com usually have like some options. Airbnb have their experiences. I know you've mentioned TripAdvisor. I'm a big fan of TripAdvisor. A lot of those options, Lonely Planet, there are so many of them. Just do your research, make sure they are credible. And before you do book with a host, for example, just do a little bit of a Google search, just to search to make sure it is legit and that there are reviews. So peer reviews are quite a big thing from this perspective. Yeah, that's such great advice. The worst thing to imagine, having parted with your money, arrived so excited, made your way to the destination only to discover the cooking class doesn't actually exist. What a terrible bad taste in the mouth, pardon the pun, that would leave. Gabbi, thanks. It's been wonderful having you on the show this afternoon, and appreciate the tips that you've shared. Hopefully it's encouraging a few more people to be a little bit bolder and explorative in their next travel in terms of what they choose to put into their mouth. And great to chat to you this afternoon. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. Travel correspondent Gabbi Brondani.